Sabrina, you brought up a very interesting point. I wanted to talk about it briefly, if we could, about doctors being accused of supplying or overprescribing painkillers. Usually it's OxyContins and the like. So it's interesting that federal and state prosecutors are taking a stand, and they're saying that these doctors are similar to drug dealers, right? They are drug dealers in robes. What do you think about that? Do you think that we could justly prosecute doctors in the same vein as we prosecute cartel or drug traffickers?
Well, obviously, we're comparing apples to oranges. However, you know, it's really become highlighted in the face of many celebrity deaths, you know, that their physician, whether they overprescribed, whether it was heroin or any other kind of substances, to try to get them back on stage because it was all about the money, and you know, they'll perform at all costs. You know, there are several celebrities that we can, you know, talk about to that effect. But relative to just lay people, sometimes the doctors do overprescribe, whether it's they're lazy and they just they take their client's word for it or the patient's word for it, or they'll just, you know, have a great patient and they'll just call over the phone and the patient says they need something and the doctor will prescribe without really treating them. But sometimes those patients will, you know, go to various doctors and get the same prescription from various doctors, and the doctors aren't looking at the patient in totality. But then that's where the insurance companies and the pharmacies have to then look at how many prescriptions are being filled. But if they're pharmacy shopping, you know, if someone goes to CVS or Walgreens or Rite Aid, you know, how is that all being monitored? Well, it's very, very closely monitored now because of all of the abuse of these prescriptions. But now more and more we're seeing not only doctors being charged criminally, we're seeing pharmacists with, you know, the onus on them. So there's a lot of layers to it, Michael, but, you know, I don't think we can place a blanket over all doctors and saying, oh, they're being lazy or they're being, you know, abusive with their power. No, I mean, obviously people get into becoming a doctor because they're care for people. I mean, doctors aren't, you know, making a boatload of money these days. I mean, they work really hard to care for people. So, I mean, at their very core, they really want to help people. You can't, you know, brush a broad stroke and say all doctors are evil, right? It's like any other profession. So you just have to be very careful and very mindful. And I think doctors now are getting that education and continuing education they need to know and look out for those red flags in their patients so that they don't jeopardize their medical license.
So Sabrina, you as a criminal defense attorney, what would you recommend to doctors so that they don't get charged with drug trafficking? Because like you said, we can't paint them with a wide brush. When a patient comes into doctor's office, he or she doesn't always know, are they being truthful about needing painkillers? Are they going to resell those painkillers, or it's for their own personal use? Can you give any type of advice to doctors how they should behave themselves, how they should prescribe painkillers, not to get even under suspicion of overprescribing?
Well, now, Michael, many doctors aren't even prescribing them, and they're only prescribing a very, very limited dose if there is a surgery or something that warrants that level of, you know, pain inhibition or tolerance. So they're very, very careful. And I know a lot of doctors that just don't prescribe them anymore because they're just so afraid that their license will be jeopardized.
So it looks like once again, government possibly overplayed their hands and intruded where they should not have been so forceful with enforcement, because now you have doctors, like you said, who are afraid to prescribe painkillers. What if a patient actually really needs it, but a doctor doesn't want to risk his career or possibly go behind bars?
Completely. And actually, I've represented several, and I've represented several pharmacists that don't even, that they're afraid to practice now. And one pharmacist in particular that I know, that he prescribed significantly less than, I mean, he issued, you know, medication based on a prescription of Oxycontin, for instance, significantly less than CVS or Walgreens, their numbers. And while granted, while, you know, the flow of traffic is significantly less, it's amazing how some businesses are targeted to set an example than others. But like anything, I think with the government or with politics, you know, if it's one side over here, then it swings completely to the other, and then eventually, hopefully, over time, it'll go back to normal. There's always that pendulum swing with a lot of different issues and topics, and hopefully, it'll correct itself, you know, in a little bit of time. And patients that really need it can get it, and that aren't abusing it, you know, can get it for their needs.
Well, Sabrina,
I think that's why marijuana is being looked at more. I mean, that's why people are using marijuana more too, you know?
Yeah, you're right. So, absolutely. As a substitute, right? Yeah.
Right.
Sabrina, this is why I love bringing attorneys on my show, because we make the law come alive. We actually showing how it's practically applied in here, which has got a great piece of advice for any doctors or pharmacy owners or people who want to become doctors. You heard it from criminal defense attorney Sabrina Shaheed Cronin. Thank you for your time, and we're going to bring you back for another issue, another interesting topic we're going to talk about next, about the Ren Eleanor TikTok controversy. And it's not just her. There are a lot of young or minors creators out there, right, on social media, who are under the guidance or non-guidance of their parents, creating content. And we want to hear about what are some legal, ethical, moral implications of being a minor on TikTok and other social media. Sabrina, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next time.